Hello.
What's going on? I was in the middle of an acronym for something.
It didn't work out.
I couldn't finish it, so I gave up.
It's okay. It's okay. We are starting a cult that's Grand of Jake.
That's
Mitch
true.
is here and Navi's playing.
That is true. Mitch is the Navi handler right now.
He's wrangling him.
He's been very energetic lately, and
Very vocal.
I know what you're all thinking. It's not ejaculation. He has been fixed. There's no reason for him to be sexually attracted to anything, okay?
Where did that... No, he's just running around.
See, but I think a lot of people, when you hear dog and excited, like especially excited, they're like, you gotta get him fixed. It's like, no. Listen.
No, he's just a puppy that's the size of a fucking lion.
Yeah, he's a moose. A big old moose-sized cinnamon roll. That's what he is.
Cinnamon roll, man. Yeah, he was curled up earlier. Cinnamon roll.
Yeah, he just chills. He'll calm down eventually, but he's on one. He's gonna join us for the show, so and tell him hi.
Yeah, he'll probably tell you hi at one point or another.
Oh, I'm counting on it. I'm almost counting on it. But we are back with a brand new episode, if you can believe that. We've never actually come back and done a not new episode, so how about that?
Theoretically. Wilt Schnoblin. That's deleted, though.
Yeah, I don't count it.
I just outed us.
I don't count it just because it's like the quality of the original was poor, and we just were like, we're gonna redo it.
We're gonna do our due diligence.
Eliminate that from the ether. So it's probably out there somewhere. I know I have a file of it on my computer here, but also I'm sure someone out there has it somewhere.
Yeah, like Podbean or something like that.
But yeah, so we're back. We're gonna finish up the potentially. I'm not even going to say it that way because it's just it's a leading response.
Yeah, don't lead them.
The incident in the woods. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
The wooded incident that was not about a man murdering individuals.
No, yeah, some might call it the Roswell of England.
Yeah, the fucking losers. That's who calls it that.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's the Rendlesham Forest incident, part 2, because we left off in a really weird place last week.
Yeah, we did, but it was the true cliffhanger of the episode.
No, it really was.
Obviously, I'm gonna just go out on a limb and say it. Like, you might not know specifics, but if you're listening to this episode, chances are you know where the cliffhanger is going.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change the fact that you didn't get the full-on detail of where it was headed.
Yeah, you didn't hear me say it. You didn't hear Grant say it.
No, you didn't.
Now you're about to, though.
But yeah, so we're back. We're gonna wrap that up today. So get ready, buckle in, enjoy yourselves, and here's the rest of Rendlesham Forest.
Yes, excellent. That was beautiful intro. So we last left off with a crazy sighting by the men of Woodbridge one night in Rendlesham Forest. Specifically, 2 men who saw a spacecraft of sorts. Right. They had lost time. They lost it. And returned to varying degrees of ridicule from their fellow soldiers, okay? Only to have the second sighting the very next night, a gathering at the base bar after Colonel Charles Holt, accompanied by, a makeshift team of sober men, investigated. Saw the trees, that they were fucked up, and saw that there was heat radiating, from the supposed first landing site. Well, guess what they saw after this?
What?
All right.
What did they see?
That's where we left off. They saw a red light.
Oh, that's
suddenly
scary.
Appeared off in the distance, and right as it appeared, all the sounds in the forest went silent.
All the
Again,
sounds?
The silence returns.
Ooh.
Well, this was like super notable because the men who were searching the area and like taking readings and samples and stuff, the animals in the forest were like audibly very agitated.
How agitated?
Like they were screaming, animal screams everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly just that.
In the forests of England, you just hear fucking monkeys just screaming. It was, yeah. Everything was going crazy, but right as it appeared, everything went silent. The silence returns. So this red light appears. Okay, it's just chilling there in one place. That is until it starts moving. It appears to start weaving slowly through the trees towards the men.
Oh.
All right, and this is like one of the parts of Holt's recording, like from the night, that are public.
Uh-huh.
So you can hear him like reacting in real time. And it's pretty crazy. You should go listen to it.
No.
You might.
You should.
Dude, we should have put it in the episode.
You know what's funny? The isolated audio is just him going to the bathroom.
It might be.
That's all it is. They're brainwashing you into thinking that's not the case.
Some of it's useful. Some of it is just bathroom.
It's mostly him just going.
Yeah. Well, the word that kept coming up on the recording was weird. Maybe describing the poop.
Describing
in the restroom
the
that you talked about.
Feces that's in the shape of a giant dildo because it cookie cutted it out. And the poop came out and it was just a big old fucking schlong. You get it? Because he was getting rammed in the ass.
Weird. Mm-hmm. Weird. Yeah, so this light is slowly making its way towards the men, and they just watch. They're just watching and reacting amongst themselves, and when the light suddenly changes, it changes direction. It was going towards them. Now it's going away from them. It slowly makes its way back, and you know what? It happened next, Grant?
They all killed themselves, and the story ends there.
That would be some what of a story.
That'd be kind of great.
Who would report it?
Okay, that's a good point.
Maybe they would find the recordings. I don't know. Maybe that's what's on the other 2.5 hours of recording.
It'd be a whole different episode. It'd be like the mystery in the woods, you know?
Yeah.
Who committed suicide? Why? What happened?
No, it would be a mess. But that would be a crazy recording to find, just aliens and then everyone's dead. Well, so yeah, you know what happened right after it started moving away from them? It was only a moment. All right, they almost immediately after this, a light, you know, it shot out, a beam of light. The light that they were watching, it shot this beam. It's just like a line. All right, right in front of Halt, actually, mere feet from Halt. You can hear on the recording that Halt is more like mesmerized by this than scared, simply like narrating like what's happening. The light then quickly made its way to the base, where it hung above it in the air, you know, for a moment. Before, again, shooting a beam of light down to the ground, which is like, I can do whatever I want, is what I think the light is saying.
Okay. So, we got sentient light, almost, in a weird example, I guess.
This light is shooting itself to the ground.
It's kind of weird. Certainly not easily explainable. I mean, I'll tell you that.
No.
This is one of those episodes, it's like, it's funny. I feel like we've stopped saying this, but it's something that applies forever and throughout the rest of our show forever.
Yeah, we say that every time too, I think.
You always just got to suspend disbelief. So if that sounds crazy, just take it for what it is. Just accept this story that we're hearing, and then we'll get to why later.
Yeah, we'll pick it apart.
And this one, even if you try to explain it, good luck. Just really good luck.
No,
that was weird.
Yeah, I can't even do it well. It's bad. It was at this time that the men decided they should go back to the base where the light had just shot a beam of light down on. So, all right. So after a while, this is all happening in the forest. All right. Not after a while. All the while that this was happening in the forest, fucking John Burroughs from last week, he was having yet another encounter. Okay, so this is happening in the woods. John Burroughs is off having his own situation. Originally on this night, Halt learned that there was another sighting. He ordered Burroughs to stay behind. But after the light appeared, Halt allowed Burroughs to approach one of the lights so as to confirm or deny that it was the one from the last night. Right?
Oh.
So, night previous, he's like, maybe this is the same one.
Okay.
All right, so on the Jeep ride out to the site, a blue stream of light that could be seen in the distance appears. All right?
Okay.
It appears to Burrow and his driver. So Burroughs got out of the Jeep and began walking towards it, and the light approached him as well. They're just walking towards each other, like old friends.
Just like, I know this light.
It's like, I remember you from last night. It's like one of those crazy bar experiences. Like, hey.
I remember you from when I was birthed out of my mother's gaping vagina.
Yeah, the doctor there. He then reportedly disappeared into the light, only to return multiple minutes later with no recollection of what had just happened, and having felt that next to no time had passed. So again, with the lost time with this guy, Burroughs just has kind of boring experiences, it seems.
Yeah. It seems to happen that way in a lot of different stories where it's like, there's always that one that has a really wild experience, and there's the one that like is there, but it's much more tame. And like they're typically the more skeptical ones because it's so tame, you know.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Peniston was the one. He got the brunt of it all.
Pussy Peniston, you say?
Penis Town.
He's a fucking pussy.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. He's the target right now.
Burroughs. John Burroughs. He's getting the short end of the stick. So all right. He disappeared. He thought, no time had passed. In fact, multiple minutes had. In total, more than 80 men on the base witnessed something that night.
Okay.
80 of these guys.
We're cooking. That's a high number.
Isn't it? Okay, so that's the second night sightings, all right? And admittedly, like, the last of the sightings we'll be discussing. But now what's left is, like, the aftermath, so to speak. So there's no more aliens. Well, this is just what happens after.
All right.
So we haven't really mentioned Jim Peniston in a while.
That's because he's a pussy.
No, not necessarily.
That's what he told me. He said, I'm a pussy. And I believed him.
He's still alive.
Why would I not
kind of sounds like
him,
Hank Hill, yeah. All right, Peniston, he was losing his goddamn mind after the experience on the first night with the craft and the symbols and the lost time and the notebook, Grant.
Oh, that shitty
with the
movie.
Notebook. All right. Oh, God, yeah, that is a terrible movie. That guy is rapey as shit. Have you ever watched that movie?
Weren't we talking about Notebooks last week? We had a thing going
That's why I brought it up. Yeah, Notebooks are awesome, but The Notebook, the movie, it seems very problematic.
You're giving me more ammunition to hate Notebooks simply for that movie. You know what I mean?
My Notebook is not the notebook of that man.
It could be, though.
It could be, but it's not.
We don't know. We don't know what the future holds.
Well, I'm never going to show you.
Neither did he.
What if this notebook was bound in human flesh?
Then it's a problem.
That would be a whole different thing.
I think that's pretty cool.
It would be cool, but what would you write in it with?
I wouldn't be. I don't think
Blood.
that. I don't know what's wrong with you two fucking weirdos, but that would not be cool. If I saw that, I'd be like, I don't want to touch this fucking book.
Well, it has to be ancient. It has to be like a grimoire.
Oh,
It
obviously.
has to have like spells written in blood.
He
Okay.
just wants the Necronomicon. That's all he wants.
Fuck that noise. Like, I don't. No. It'd be cool to look at from a distance, but to like have it.
Turn the pages with like a 20-foot stick.
I don't even want to turn. I
you
don't
go.
want to open it. Okay, I want to poke it and like just be like, I'm gonna go move out of my house.
You just
and
call
go
the
somewhere.
police at that point.
No, fuck the cops. Cops don't do shit.
No, yeah, but like, you could just pass blame. You just be like, you take it.
What are you gonna do? What's a cop gonna do? He's gonna be like,
He's going to get the brunt of whatever evil shit's coming out of that.
yeah,
We're
I
not
guess that's
touching it.
true. Yeah, I ain't touching it no matter what. I'm
You want
sorry.
to kill a cop, call the cops on the Necronomicon.
You'll have to pick that book up and throw it at me in order for me to touch it. And at that point, the bad juju's on both of us. So like nobody wins.
Yeah. No, you're right. Well, Peniston, he was losing his mind, all right? Probably because of the notebook, the Necronomicon sort of deal we were just talking about. Peniston reportedly needed a full week of psychological recovery from this experience.
What did I tell you?
I think he just wanted a lot of time off. Maybe. Like something like this, the first like 2 or 3 days, you're just like, okay, I've come to accept that. It's like, I'm just going to take the full week.
How do you call that one off of work? Like, when they like ask for like PTO, you're like, yeah, I got to recoup. I saw a fucking UFO or some shit. They're like, get your fucking ass to work, dude. What are you talking about?
I just imagine it like one of those dramatic shots from a movie where it's like him laying down, like staring horrified at the wall.
Like
and
a
you
cat?
You can see like the door in the background. He's like, hey, it's time for breakfast. And he just doesn't answer. He's like, get well soon, man. And then he leaves. And then he's just depressed for a couple more days.
Yeah, I don't know how.
That's how it probably was the first couple nights, at least.
I don't understand. I mean, I guess I get it. I've never seen a UFO, so I can't tell you one way or the other.
I don't know how it goes.
But this dude didn't get, like, probed or abducted, So, like, he just saw some weird shit. That'd be like if we were in the car, right? And we're just doing something like, all right, let's go get some food.
Yeah.
And we see, like, a horrific car accident.
We've been watching a lot of car crash videos the past couple days.
We have. But imagine if we saw one in real life, like in real time. We saw it happen. And then we were like, I have to take the next week off of work to recover from that.
That'd be cool.
It's like, I guarantee you, like, I don't know many jobs that would be like, They might give you a day, be like, I get it.
It's like, you don't gotta come in today. Well, what if you say, like, oh, they were so charred, the bodies, I saw their face.
Yeah, most
or
companies would probably still be like, that's terrible. I'll see you Tuesday.
It's like, maybe you go see HR or something.
Yeah, we'll give you a counselor, but you need to be in the fucking office, okay?
Yeah. Well, Peniston had PTSD, all right? And on top of that, not long after his experience, he developed an inner ear infection, causing him to have terrible tinnitus, or however the fuck you say it, and random spells of extreme dizziness.
Wait. Did you just call it tinnitus?
Some people call it tinnitus. I think it's tinnitus.
Yeah, I was gonna say those people that say it that
But then
way.
there's ear doctors that I don't know. Through friends, they're just like, my ear doctor calls it tinnitus. I'm like, that doesn't sound right, but he is a doctor. But I'm gonna call it tinnitus because everyone knows what I'm saying.
I'll tell you this. I'm in no way saying that I'm smarter than a doctor because I'm not. I'm making that statement.
The doctor.
All right, I'm making that statement present. I'm not saying that I have more training or more knowledge than a doctor, but just because you have a doctorate degree does not mean you're smart. It just doesn't. I'm sorry to say that. Someone out there is probably like, this guy's a fucking dick. It's just true. Think about it.
No, I mean, it's like the old joke about the guy who majors in philosophy. He's a doctor in philosophy, and he knows all the theories, all the things, but he pronounces it Socrates.
Yeah, Socrates.
It's like he knows the stuff, but it's like, come on.
Yeah,
come on, man.
I always think of the guy on was that Wheel of Fortune when he's like, actuallys. Like,
dude, that was from IU, our home state. Oh god,
we can't give that one to you, buddy. It's not actuallys. That's not a word.
Greek god Achilles.
It's like no. I'm sorry.
You fucking idiot.
I'm just sorry. You can put that into anything. Just because you have training does not necessarily mean that you're like a smart person.
In that guy's defense, he was in school.
Yeah, that guy.
Maybe he just should have gone to school instead of being on that game show.
He didn't know enough, He just didn't know enough. It's okay, though.
Yeah, well, Peniston's having a bad time. PTSD, ear infection, tinnitus. He's getting dizzy. But despite his mental distress and emerging health ailments, Peniston, as well as Burroughs, along with 3 other men, had to give statements regarding the first night so an official report could be filed.
Okay.
All right, the military's all about these reports.
Official reports.
From Peniston and Burroughs. Their stories were taken and documented more or less at face value. All right, the reports mentioned lights, the timeline, even the craft. Okay, there was a fucking craft there. It says that in an official document. It's crazy.
All right.
But what failed to make it into the report it was like the staticky air, right, and the difficulty walking, and the sort of atmosphere surrounding the craft, and the lost time that didn't make it in.
I get that, because how do you, quantify that,
Yeah, it's like, he keeps telling me this. It's like, I feel like they might be trying to save face on these guys'
some guy,
mental,
he's like,
state.
The air was so sticky. It's like, well, I don't know how to write that, so we're going to leave that off.
It's like, I'm not a poet. I'm writing this report, okay?
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah. These 2 men didn't have just, a single interview each, however. Both Peniston and Burroughs were interviewed 14 times.
That's a lot.
For the same exact story. They were like, we have to make sure that this is real, okay? You say the exact same thing 14 times. Going over and over the same shit. So as for the other 3 men that were interviewed, they were basically made to sign pre-written statements, which most of them did happily and without reading them, so as to, try to put the whole thing behind them.
Okay.
It's not something you want to do is sign contracts.
No, it's not. It's not.
Especially without reading them.
Yeah, if you sign a contract without reading it, you need to do something different with your life. This isn't a terms and conditions, okay? This is a fucking contract.
Yeah, it is fun to write your signature, but you don't do it just on any paper.
Yeah, don't do it willy-nilly. You're better than that. You're all better than that.
And if you do that, you're not. As simple as that. So now, there were other men on the base who had seen shit that first night, right? Like, not just those 5 dudes. But the Air Force, for whatever reason, didn't feel the need to take their statements from them.
No.
Sort of interesting. I don't know why. Why would they not do that? And what's weirder, absolutely no statements or reports were made for the second night of encounters, even though there were far more men and higher-ranking men at that witnessed the strange lights and activity.
Yeah,
so nothing from the second night.
That's a weird take. I'll give them that. That's a weird thing to do.
The Air Force didn't touch night 2. All right?
They're like, there's too much at stake here. We can't.
There's so much at stake. My base. My sweet base in England. So it's sort of weird, right? The U.S. Air Force seemed to want to get this over with, in a sense, right? Very interesting. Well, what's even stranger, the U.S. and the U.K. were sort of in a game of hot potato with this situation. Because, the U.S. considered it a problem that was to be dealt by the U.K., considering the event took place off base in the U.K., it just makes sense. It's their forest.
Yeah, I like that. There's no American ties.
It's like you take it. It's kind of like us calling the police on the Necronomicon so they get fucked by it and we don't.
I just love the idea.
It's like you do it.
They're like, America should have. They should have done something. It's like, this happened not in our property, not in our country, and not involving our people. No. No.
Well, the UK was firmly in the line of thought that this happened to Americans while they were serving America, and they just so happened to be in their country.
Think of, like, my neighbor, right? Like, or your neighbor, anybody's neighbor.
Think
like,
of
where you're at,
the neighbor, capital T.
You're in your home, and a situation happens. The neighbor, like, fucking starts a grease fire when they're making, like, a hamburger patty on the stove, right? And then they get shitty with you. They're like, why didn't you call the police? It's like, first off, I didn't know. And second off,
it's like, I was at work.
I don't have anything to do with that situation. So, fuck you.
So you're the one who poured water on it, idiot.
Yeah, I mean, for once, America was not putting their nose in business, okay?
No, they were very much the opposite. They were trying to push it off.
They might have missed some cool, like, stories and shit, but they did the right thing, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, nothing is official here. They're just in this hot potato game, all right? Very interesting, very stupid. Colonel Halt actually wrote a comprehensive memo recounting the events to the British military. So he wrote this memo. He was like, this is what happened. And he, like, made sure to write it in such a way that it was, like, it would coax them into, like, ooh, maybe we should take this. You know, it was, like, sort of like an advertisement for the case, trying to pass responsibility of the investigation.
Fair enough.
So, this failed to do so, however, because it was damn near a month after the fact that this memo made its way to the English military, giving them more than enough reason to say that this was obviously not very urgent, right?
Fair enough,
This probably isn't a big deal, and given how much time had gone by, an investigation would be ultimately, like, stupid. Very useless, in a sense. Basically, everyone wanted this whole thing to go away.
To be honest, if I was in any of these shoes at this time, that's exactly what I would want to.
True.
I want the information for myself personally, but all that paperwork and all that shit, it's like, yeah, I just want this to go away.
But do you think it was out of laziness or, like, out of fear and, like, secrecy? You know, because it's like, there's no rule book on this. Like, how do we go about this? It's frightening. Also, we don't have rules.
Personally, just based off of my opinion and, like, the research that we've done for other episodes and other stories similar to encounters like this, I think this one is more out of laziness or just passing the buck for responsibility. Because I don't think it's out of fear. Because we've had plenty of other stories where weird shit like this has happened, and there was no fear in investigating. Like, we wanted the answer.
There was it was never to such a scale as this. 80 dudes are seeing this shit, and, like, there's people who are firsthand encountering ships.
That's what I'm saying.
And losing time and shit, and, like, everybody on the base is like, oh my god.
I think if anything,
what's happening?
That would make it easier to investigate if that's what we wanted. I mean, you had to think, like, Project Blue Book. Think of all the shit that they looked into for that. And I mean, this was 20, 30 years previous to this event,
Yeah.
And the interest we had in that. So maybe the only other possible explanation that I could give out of just sheer laziness is that maybe some things we've learned from Project Blue Book or previous investigations into this maybe we already had a solid enough answer to where it was like we don't need to go any further.
Yeah, we don't need to ruffle the feathers again.
You know, like
Right.
I truly don't think it's out of fear. I think it's either out of we don't need it, it's unnecessary, or just sheer like who fucking cares.
I don't know. I think they may have been like, what the fuck do we do? But not like necessarily fear. It's just kind of like, what?
It's a lot of work. I'll tell you that. It's certainly a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, yeah. Well, in any case, the story did indeed sort of die a little bit, or at least it became less of a big deal as time passed, because, it wasn't continuing to happen. So that is until the alien hunting community caught word of this whole thing and revitalized the case. Okay, so after the initial events, some of the U.S. military personnel from Woodbridge, they were on leave, right? They were out on the town. They were in British pubs. They were drinking and having a great time. All right? Just a great time out on the town. They were feeling pretty good, and at a certain point during the night, one of them spilled the beans to a woman named Brenda Butler.
Bean spiller.
Beans spilled all over Brenda. And so funny thing about old Brenda here, she was part of a little thing called the British UFO Research Association, or BUFORA.
The BUFORA.
BUFORA. So she started talking with her associate about this, right? The whole thing, which ultimately resulted in an article about the whole thing being written in a publication called the Flying Saucer Review in 1982.
Now, don't get me wrong. I love a good UFO story. I mean, that's the only thing that a UFO story is second to is probably a paranormal, like ghost story.
Yeah, and if you can combine the two, good lord.
But there's literally no going around the obvious here that when you name your publication the Flying Saucer Review, no one is going to take that seriously. It just will not happen.
Pretty much, yeah. But
I'm sorry to tell you, ladies, it's not going to fly.
But here's the thing: it ends up happening. That happens. That thing you said couldn't. It's really weird how it. But all right, so that was in 1982. It was published in the Flying Saucer Review, like you said. It's a ridiculous name, no big deal, right? So one little article ain't no thing. Well, some UFO enthusiasts in the U.S. with a subscription to this magazine ended up reading the story, and with the help of the Freedom of Information Act in the U.S., they were able to request and receive the reports from Rendlesham Forest.
Oh.
Like, they just got them all from the incident. The Halt memo was loose, all right? It was out on the streets.
Okay.
So the basic little summary that he sent to the British ministry. It's awesome. All right, so the story, it's great. It's fucking awesome. So the story of Rendlesham Forest is in the public eye at this point, all right? But most of the headlines and stories that were featured in the papers were obviously, like, sensationalized, okay? Given what we know now. Taking most of the information from, drunk and or excited military men eager to tell the most embellished and compelling version of what they knew and saw, right? Okay. Treating the Halt memo sort of as, like, an afterthought, despite it being the only solid document recounting the incident.
Fair enough.
All right? And as this incident was making headlines, no U.S. airman was more vocal than a full of shit person, Larry Warren, all right? Warren. The name Warren is back. So
we can't escape it.
You can't escape it. This guy was in the Air Force. He was a piece of shit. Larry Warren, he was talking to all the papers. He was the only one that talked to him for a while, actually. And we'll get into why that is. Warren was only on the base for 2 weeks before the incident happened, right? So he was there. That much we know.
He's fresh meat.
And many of the men on the base claimed that he wasn't even there. But this was simply because no one knew him. He was a real background loser, this guy. Okay?
I get that. Like, he's kind of a quiet oddball, and he's, like, new, so it's easy to be forgotten in that crowd.
But I guess it's probably good he wasn't known at that point, because you're also probably targeted if you fuck up. So True. He was probably just doing his shit. But still. This guy sucks. He had no motivation for upward momentum, all right? He made no lasting impressions, and he was discharged from the military almost a decade before most of the men on the base. All right, so it was like a couple years after this. Unfortunately, this meant that he was free to discuss these things before anyone else had who actually had experiences were able to, right?
He was able to cut the chain early.
Yeah. He was out there. He was gabbing.
What a fucking douchebag.
And just like a loser does, he saw a moment to shine, and then he just lied his fucking ass off. All right, he just made up some insane story. He claimed that one of the men, he was one of the men to accompany Halt on the second night. Right? He claimed that a light appeared in the sky, moving at high speeds, and it then exploded in a painfully bright explosion. All right, it was this crazy light, and out of this explosion came a craft that was 40 feet wide and 20 feet tall, that was pyramid-shaped with blue lights underneath it and seemed to be somewhat translucent because he said he saw figures inside of the craft.
Oh.
Very different so far. He claimed that then Colonel Halt, he stepped towards the craft and began speaking with the figures inside through the craft itself. Warren claims that he gathered from what he overheard that the alien craft was damaged and that he and the rest of the men were quickly escorted back to the base for debriefing and medical examination for radiation. Okay, so a whole big narrative. It's all very cinematic.
Okay.
All right. Warren then claims that he was taken aside by higher-ups and shown footage of UFOs and received a whole spiel about, like, the aliens and the government. We're working together. We have been for some time. You can't tell anyone. And and again, this guy had been stationed there for 2 weeks. And he was like the lowest he was a private. He was the lowest on the totem. He was basically a child at this point in his life. They're not going to take this kid aside and tell him this shit, right? Like, he was one of the many men that experienced this, and he's the guy.
Hey.
I don't know. I just don't believe this guy. Some of the aspects of the story are kind of cool, but I don't know, man. I don't know.
I'm going to jump in here for some devil's advocate time.
There's a little bit more, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just playing the outfield here, okay? Think of this. What if he's the only one telling the truth? Obviously, that alters the entire story, and that it's not believable in any sense of the word. But what if he's the only one? What if he's being real?
It could be amazing.
It really could
If so,
be.
I apologize to this man, but his was literally the only story that was anything like this, and every other story pretty much lines up with the other.
Yeah, it's hard to figure that one out. I'll tell you that.
I don't know, man. The odds are against him. That's all I'm saying. It's a pretty big departure from the storyline.
Yeah,
the official reports gathered, right?
There's not just a couple differences. I mean, it alters the entire overarching story.
It does.
Everything about it is a little bit different than what we've heard and what's been reported by others involved.
Yeah, and he probably picked the second night because he knew there weren't any fucking reports about it, so he's like, let me fill in that blank for you.
Yeah, so I mean, in a weird enough way, he's got about as much evidence as anything else, but there's something about it that just doesn't really match with the rest.
Yeah, no other man's story from these 2 nights even comes close to Warren's.
No.
So this guy, he even claimed that he was kidnapped by the Men in Black and threatened to, if he wouldn't stop talking about the experience, because he was talking a lot about the experience. He was like, yeah, they were threatening me. They were just like, you're gonna die, and we're gonna kill you. This, but unfortunately, he got to the press first, and he was talking to everyone that would listen, okay? And it was only in the 2010s that Warren's persistent lying came to light, all right? So he's a known liar now.
Okay, that doesn't help his case.
Yeah, you want to know why? Because he was selling fake memorabilia John Lennon and Stevie Ray Vaughan.
That's not a liar. That's just a business.
He was he was photoshopping himself in pictures with shit, with these with John Lennon, with Stevie Ray Vaughan wearing stuff, and he would just get replicas of it and sell it as if it was the real thing. He's like, yeah, he gave me this after this photo.
Cool, man.
That was in the 2010s that happened.
That's just a business, man. You can't even be upset about that. That guy knew his market.
I guess so. Yeah, he was making thousands of dollars.
I would legitimately never buy that in the world. And anyone that I don't think people realize. I mean, yeah, you could swindle some suckers, obviously.
Oh, you can swindle any sucker you want.
But if you're ever really into that, you're not going to buy it without a certification, you know?
Yeah.
You don't just buy it from some guy and you're like, "What? He showed me the picture. I see it," you know?
Maybe you could print out fake certifications too, I'm sure.
Like, this isn't fucking Fabio, okay? Or like, like this is not like a one-of-a-kind piece of material. Like, this is just like clothes.
Yeah. Well, okay, so with this with Warren like coming to light, his true colors are showing to the world, you know? He's like, "Oh, fucking loser." This guy almost single-handedly tarnished the credibility of the Rendlesham Forest incident for decades.
Okay.
Is what I think. All right? Like you were saying, he could be the only one telling the truth. He's making a lot of money and stuff. But either way, it's only now that the somewhat full story is coming to light. But just like with any UFO story, there's going to be countless articles and skeptics that dismiss the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, right? That's the fun,
But, you know, isn't that just... It's a sad way to live, kind of. You know, just to not believe... Just to mind close off to that kind of thing. You got to live a little.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a definite proponent of just believing and maybe even in a lot of cases just kind of like going with it and just like, yeah, maybe this is what it is.
It's like what we said. Just do that with our episodes. Like, this is all true what we're saying, and then afterward you can think back.
But there definitely are, I would say, more people that are the opposite of that are very like, nope, doesn't make
Very
sense.
much,
Why would
yeah.
I like focus energy and time on that? That's just preposterous.
My personality is I don't think that's real.
And it's like, hey,
wow, that's interesting.
Good
Okay.
for you, man. Everybody is everybody's entitled to an opinion, I guess.
I guess so. I mean, that's pretty much it. Oh, there's also there's a fun little attraction in Rendlesham Forest now.
Yeah, the Rendlesham Trail or whatever.
The UFO trail. The Forestry Commission used lottery proceedings to build a trail. And had like notable locations with like labels and shit. And then so that happened in 2005. In 2014, the Forest Service commissioned an artist to create a sculpture of the craft that followed the exact measurements and descriptions from Peniston's notebook, and they placed it at the end of the trail there.
Oh,
It's
really?
kind of fun.
That's cute.
Fun. Sculpture wouldn't have existed without the notebook.
That's a little cute.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
No, it's good. So that's Rendlesham Forest, man. I mean, that's pretty much it. So do you think that Warren had some like speckles of truth in there, or do you think the reports of Peniston and the other boy?
It's difficult to say, only because this differs from, I think a solid comparison here.
Burroughs is his name. Yeah, go ahead.
Is the Hollow Earth theory. You're probably like, what the fuck are you talking about? The reason I say that,
Admiral Byrd,
because Admiral Byrd, in and outside of his job, was a very respected and trusted person. So it certainly gives weight to a lot of what he said. Whether it's provable or not, it's believable because of who he is.
Yeah, he was famous individually, and that was his ticket in.
Yeah, and these guys, pretty much every player in this story, that's like the one characteristic that we're lacking, is that trustworthy characteristic outside of just other people that were on that base or worked with them. And we're like, yeah, you can trust that guy. It's like we didn't have that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, your friend is vouching for you? Okay.
So it certainly makes for a weird, very, very, very weird situation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got just like the high rank of military personnel. Like Colonel Holt. Colonel's huge. And he went on, like, he was obsessed with this story.
Yeah,
like he wanted to play it down, like for the sake of reports and shit, and like they were, but this was like, he wrote a book. It's called The Halt Perspective.
Yeah,
about this, he like talks about it. So does Peniston. Peniston he looks scarred.
I'd be interested to know, like, more detail just from his perspective, because it's a hard topic, because this one doesn't have. Like, in pretty much every other UFO or alien story, we have some weird conflicting evidence that almost builds the story higher. Travis Walton, for example, like the lie detector tests are a big one. The reports of the other people, big one. For like the Flatwoods Monster keeps coming up to me for some reason, and I think it's mostly because of like the military involvement.
Yeah.
But like that, you have people that live and die by that perspective of what they saw.
The Holt perspective.
And they gain nothing. And what's interesting here, it's sort of the opposite, because Holt, he's made it his personality in a weird way. Like, that's what he is.
Yeah, he became a little dork about it.
And he's written a book. I'm assuming he's been able to at least do some local, if not, larger scale interview circuits, talks, things like that. He's pretty much made this his career,
So, well, I mean, he's probably out of, I don't even know if he's still alive.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I would imagine if he was doing that, it would be like a hobby for him that just so happened to give him some money sometimes in his like retirement.
And yeah,
you know what I mean?
And to me, that's what it almost, no matter what way you look at it, there's no person or single individual in this story that has their own standing credibility.
But it's like the sheer mass of it should make up for it a little bit, right? 80 fucking dudes?
A little bit. I can't deny that. I would say that it's weird. However, now this is obviously the more skeptical side. I just think it's important to bring it up for the sake of the show. The one thing that skeptics always come back to, and it is hard to deny, is that you're in a military Air Force base, specifically one that helped create radar technology.
And possibly has hidden nuclear arms there for the Cold War.
Right. So you're in a very, very, very peculiar situation, to say the least. Now, also thinking, you created radar. You're the mother lode of what radar technology is at this time.
You're the source, yeah.
And the skeptics use this as a way to kind of prove their point of perhaps it's not even a hoax. Perhaps it's a misunderstanding. Because obviously, you're not going to fake something like this without it being real or acknowledged to be fake.
Do you think they were just like so stoked on the radar that they were like, oh, yeah, that would look like a plane if it was a plane. What's that dot?
There are people that lean on that side. And that is interesting in and of itself, because it very well could be something that is like a special operation done for the intention of testing the new technology that we have.
Maybe. Or, like a psychological play from Russia.
Yeah, and I mean,
perhaps.
Obviously, that doesn't negate the fact that it could very well be what they reported it to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, the radar thing only accounts for such a small part of the story, and then, this thing, I don't know. It didn't seem to have any, negative effects physically on anything or anyone, so, if it was sort of like a test thing in wartime, don't you think it would cause some damage of some sort?
What do you, how do you figure?
What do you mean? If the enemy is testing something, or do you think this was a test of our government and the people on the base didn't know about it?
No,
is that what you're saying? Or?
I'm not saying it's an enemy. I'm saying that it's a purposefully done test to see what could be done.
So it's the government testing the reactions to this thing, or because someone on the base would have known about it.
Somebody, but that's the whole point. You do shit like this. You do these operations, it doesn't come out. It's not like a rumor that gets around.
But it's strange to me that they would do it to a bit
No, I'm
seems
saying
like
they're
it would...
doing it to themselves. Is what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's
so everyone knows what it is.
It's sort of like if you get a new doorbell and you ring it yourself, because you want to know what it's capable of. Or you get a new phone and you start doing shit on it that you wouldn't normally do, but you're like, I just want to know what I'm capable of here.
Okay, so there's a select group of people in this base that are like, let's test this thing.
That's what a lot of...
And then other people on the base, they're like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, that's what a lot of the anti-theorists say about this.
All right.
And it is interesting because it's something that isn't necessarily weird to do. it has happened, and it seems like something that's very rational. Mostly because there wasn't damage. Like
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
the fact that nothing negative came of this, other than people reporting it, leads people to believe that it was done in a very I don't even have the right term, like condensed way, to where there's no collateral. This wasn't like some shit crashed and like the forest got fucked up. There was a fire, trees were down, like people were in a panic. You know
it's
what
like
I mean?
a low stakes thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it either you learn it or you don't, and one way or the other, nothing changes. It just is what it is.
Yeah. No, I mean it could be that because this is one of like the highest or like more thoroughly covered like incidents that have to do with extraterrestrials seemingly.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is no extraterrestrial itself. No one had an experience with another being.
Yeah,
or anything. It was just like crafts and or lights or both. I don't know.
So yeah, I would say both pretty much, unless the lights were
Lights
part
that turn
of the
into
craft.
crafts.
I don't know.
And it maybe was just like a test for a laser light show. I don't know. There was a lot of flashing lights. There were lava lamps. Maybe people were just doing poppers out there.
You never know, and that's why this story is intriguing because it's so low stakes, like on either end. Like
it really is. But I mean, it is interesting though because more could come out about it. Because, like I said, it was kind of just like tossed to the wayside because Warren was fucking things up in the media. There's like, this is obviously ridiculous, but like just now, like in recent years, people have actually started looking into it. Like, there's probably documents we haven't seen about it yet.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure, and if there is some meat on that bone, that it's being investigated from multiple different avenues.
Yeah, and the 2.5 hours of audio that were just lost from that night.
Yeah,
the second night from Halt. That's I want it. I want that audio.
This is sort of. I'm doing a lot of comparisons today. I don't know where this is coming from.
Yes.
This is like the Bigfoot of UFO stories. It's one of those that you're either gonna believe it wholeheartedly or deny it, and that kind of has led to the loss of interest in it.
Yeah, like the Halt memo is the equivalent to Zapruder film.
Yeah.
Or wait, no.
Patterson Gimlin.
I was thinking of the most viewed or like scrutinized films, and that's number one. Patterson Gimlin's what I meant. Yeah,
and it's because it's so nothing. Like, think of a Bigfoot story. It's like it's either real or it isn't.
I saw him walking. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like we don't gain anything, we don't lose anything. That's kind of how this is. It's like either it was a UFO. Well, I mean, it was a UFO. It was either like some sort of craft. Or it was nothing. But either way that coin lands, nothing really changes because we don't have any answers past that.
The biggest thing probably is just Peniston and fucking Burroughs. They just want their 45 minutes back.
Yeah,
that's the biggest loss.
That's a reasonable
time.
Point to that.
Hug your kids.
I would have to say, for me personally, not that this matters in any way, shape, or form for opinions out there. I'm not. I don't have a decision for this one. This is a unique one.
I tend to believe things.
Yeah, you're a believer.
I like a lot of stuff.
Believer.
I'm a believer, dude. I like a lot of stuff. I'm not really picky, and I really like this one. I just really like it. I don't like Warren. I don't like any of the Warrens that we've talked about on this show, but this story kind of does it for me.
He's just like a swindler. He's like one of those old like tonic salesmen.
Oh yeah, it was a flying pyramid and there were squares and we were working with them. It's like, okay.
Like Kung Pao, like the movie?
Yeah, like Kung Pao.
But yeah, it's
like then I kung fu fought a cow. It was awesome.
This is a tough one because there's evidence on both sides of the table here that lead me towards it's not something extraterrestrial or it is. And it's split me so evenly that I
throwing up your hands on this one.
I can't sway myself one way or the other because there's evidence to support both beliefs.
Wet, lather, rinse.
And
rinse, you're washing your hands of it.
And the one thing I will say, I know that this was 40-some years ago, but on the grand scale, as far as these investigations go, that's pretty young.
Yeah.
And we just, where we're at right now with this story and the information that you can gather, it's hard to make that call. But in the future, we don't know. I mean, it still generates interest. I mean, we're talking about it.
Yeah.
People out there are, trying to read more about it, get different perspectives. So who's to say that something won't come of this eventually?
Who knows? Maybe Warren was like not a psyop, but like a government plant. He's like, all right, you just have to make this sound so ridiculous so enough time passes to where any evidence that may have been left behind is moot now. It's like,
I mean, that is...
It could be something like that.
That is probably the most realistic part of his story. It really wouldn't shock me if they did pull him aside and give him like a small crash course. But it was more geared towards that of like, we want you to say this for no reason other than just like it would benefit everybody involved if you could just go out and do this.
So I mean, some of the stuff could be the evidence, could be dried up at this point, could be not applicable anymore, but there's definitely some that still is that we're yet to uncover.
And
I guarantee it.
What I think is funny is this is sort of a global perspective here, but as far as governments being interested, I think it's fair to say that every country in this planet has people that are interested in it that are either just regular citizens or higher ups within government or power.
The extraterrestrials, you mean?
But yeah. And I think that the American government, now you guys, if you know something I don't know, or if you have a different perspective, you can let me know.
The Halt perspective.
But I think it's one of those things where the American perspective on UFO and aliens, especially during that time, was way higher than it was in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
And
dude, that was a big thing in like just ufology in general. It's like aliens mostly appear to Americans.
Right.
Because theoretically we came up with the atom bomb.
So that's where, to me, it's the most intriguing, because that might be why we don't have the answers, is because simply it just wasn't of that importance to them. It was like, well, whatever the fuck it is, who cares? It's gone. Let's move on.
Yeah.
But
it's like if it's a chronic problem, we'll look at it.
Yeah, and for the Americans, it was very much the opposite. I mean, you get one instance of something weird happening, and you got convoys coming out to check it out.
Yeah.
And that it really seemingly, to me, was a very American way to handle that,
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of the reason why we just simply don't have more detail on that.
Because we don't deserve it.
Or it's fucking nothing. I don't know. That's why it's so weird.
There was apparently some teenager who was like blasting weird music and doing donuts in the forest that night.
Goddamn hoodlum.
He claimed to have done that like years afterward, and he's like, "Oh, I just learned about the Rendlesham forest. That was me in my car." It's like, I really don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was 2 nights of debauchery. I don't think so.
Yeah, it is weird, and it's fun that it spanned 2 nights, because that's a little different than your typical story. It's usually like a one and done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think to be honest, this might sound negative. I don't think that much is going to come out of this as far as the future goes.
Any little bit we can squeeze out will do.
Yeah, that'd be great. But
we'll do updates.
Simply, I just think it's been too long, and I mean, give it some more time, and the actual people involved will be at a point where they're either dead or no longer like capable of giving a believable story.
Yeah.
And if the story hasn't been told already, it's going to be hard to digest that if it's told now. So we're at this weird point in this story's life cycle where it may or may not die out,
Yeah. Dude, whether he was employed by the government or just a fucking idiot, Warren ruined everything.
Yeah, he certainly did not help the situation in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Everything that we spent the last about 15 minutes talking about is pretty much his fault.
Yeah. But I guess we can thank him for that amount of time with us talking, and I like doing the show.
Yeah, it really gives you guys time to understand the perspectives here. And see, this is why it's good, because we have different perspectives, and it shows that no one fucking knows what's going on here.
Yeah,
And
dude.
no one needs to know. That's the important thing. Because if they wanted us to know what happened that night, we'd probably know by now.
Yeah, probably. You said perspective so many times.
Yeah,
this episode. I can tell because every time you say it, I want to say whole perspective, and I've only done it like 3 times.
That's pretty much what this whole 2-episode arc has been about.
It's all about perspective.
It's just about different people's views of what's going on here, you know?
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's the fact that we got so many different point of view retellings of what they saw. It does add some weight to the idea that it's hard to deny these people what they saw.
Yeah.
Like, that's simply the truth. Whether you take that as truth or not, you can't take it away from them.
And then on the other hand, it is interesting that they only have 5 official reports, and 3 of them were forcibly signed. They were probably just pre-written general statements.
Exactly. I think it's fair to say
So who knows?
something weird happened that night, regardless of what it is. Something really strange and unique occurred, and it's clearly left a mystery for the rest of us forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how about that? How about the
How
fucking
about that?
forest?
The Rendlesham.
It's a dumb
It's over
forest. It's a stupid place.
There's a cool trail there.
Then, yeah, you
Art.
can go hang out and go do your thing, and I don't know, if you go over there, it's probably illegal, but take a dump on the trail for me.
On the trail, not just like maybe off of it a little bit.
No, like you need to be on it. On
All
it.
right.
Okay?
I'll do it if I can.
Take a picture of it and send it to us.
Yeah, email us, startacult@gmail.com.
We want to see your UFO feces. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
That's what we've always been here for.
That's what this show's always been about. That's what we got here.
It was leading up to this one, 150 something, or I don't know how many episodes we've done.
Show us your steaming pile of UFO shit.
Make it fog up the lens before you take it. That'd be interesting.
That is our series on the Rendlesham Forest.
It is aliens.
Rendlesham.
How about that? Do they exist? Who knows?
That is a whole other question.
Yeah. But you can follow us on all the shit. It's Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and we have an email. I just said it earlier. But it's we are starting no, it's not. It's startacult@gmail.com.
There
See,
it is.
I can't do it twice. I can't. And then YouTube. You can like and subscribe there.
Hey, check us out.
We're always looking at all the comments there, your suggestions. They're all on the list. You know they are. We know they are. We have the list. We can prove it.
Don't ask
I
us
think
to
that's
prove
it. Yeah, but you don't have to.
You don't want to see it.
No way. That's one thing we won't do is prove it.
I'll prove it with a fucking gun to your head, you fucking monsters.
Little pop gun. Yeah.
No, a real gun with a silver bullet, just in case you're a werewolf. I will eliminate you. That's why you should listen.
That is that's why you should listen. Yeah. So yeah, we were starting called Straight Up Jake. Mitch was here. Navi was misbehaving. He's gone now, but that's the show.
Yeah, he's still in the house somewhere.
He's still in the. He's not like capital G gone, but
yeah, it's like he was put down.
No, we just got him out of the room.
He had to go. He had to go. He
He had to poop, and then he was doing laps. It was crazy. Anyway, yeah, we'll see you guys next week for another cool topic.
Yes, we will.
With us.
Be ready and we'll miss it. We'll be here after the fact, but have a good St. Patrick's Day. How about that?
Shit, when's that again?
Thursday. How about that? So enjoy yourselves. The kind of the fake holiday that gets us to summer. How about that?
Yeah, drink beer that's green. How do you make it green? Is it just food dye?
It has to be. There's no other way unless you're like doing some dumb shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Spinach beer.
Spinach beer.
That's what Mitch thinks.
Kale protein ale.
For all you vegan bastards out there, just eat a steak. Just do it.
All right, that's a good way to end this episode. All right, we'll see you guys.
Bye.
Bananas.